Okay, everyone see that? Okay, Stonebridge Photography Club, Open Class B, Seeking Freedom. Rich, your comments?
Yes, okay, I'm just taking it in a little bit here. Animal photographs, of course, are taken better in an environment that doesn't include the cage. People who are animal activists cringe at this type of thing, so keep that in mind. No sense in trying to take it all out in Photoshop. So that's what hurts this picture the most. The rest of it is fine. The cropping is good. I'm looking for my pointer. You don't see my pointer on your screen, I'm sure.
No, I don't.
Yeah, okay. There is a way to get that, but if somebody knows, please tell me. So on the upper right-hand corner, where you're clipping the ear, it's not as good as it could be. It's always better to have eyes looking into the lens.
Let me just go back. Give me a second, okay?
Yeah.
What I wanted to do was let me get Mario up here. I think he knows that stuff.
Hey, Mark, can we get rid of that bottom piece also where it says participants?
How's that?
You know, where the mute and the stop video on the bottom banner?
No.
Can't get rid of it?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me just go back to the sharing. All right, do you see the score contest?
I see where it says score contest. I'm watching
Okay.
your.
All right, let me go back into here. Seeking Freedom.
Oh, okay, so this is a 6.
Jellyfish.
By the way, I have 2 screens. Audio is not working on my big monitor, which is a 27-inch monitor, so I can see these images pretty well here. The audio is going through my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
This is a nice subject to shoot. Many people shoot these. I think that composition-wise, although the angle or the direction that the jellyfish appears to be moving is really good, because I like the diagonal going from the center of the big blobby part of the animal or fish or whatever you call these guys up to the upper left. The thing that's hurting the most in composition is clipping the bottom where it's clipped. Also, I see a great deal of softness, and as I bend over, I'm looking at another screen. Sometimes that shows a little differently. I would say this is a 6 as well.
Hello.
They're a really cute animal. Always fun to shoot. A lot of them are taken in zoos, which is fine. Make sure you do something like I see here. You have nothing to show that it's in a zoo. You got the background is blurred out, is in contrast with the sharpness of the face of the animal. The detail in the animal, in the hair, if that's what you call it, is really good. You have beautiful highlights in the eyes, which is good. Eyes aren't looking right at the lens, but it's still fine. Now, I told you about, I have 2 screens, and on my monitor that I have on my keyboard doesn't show the highlights blown out like I do on I have on my large screen. So for that reason, I'll give this a 7. I'm sorry, this is, okay, I can say 7, 8, or 9, it doesn't matter.
No, 6 or 7 the first round.
7s, okay. Well, this means 7s will be in for the second
right
round. Gotcha.
Looking back.
This is very interesting that somebody would think of doing this. I like that factor very, very much. The composition as far as where the location of the mirror is relative to the rest of the image is pretty neat. There is a filter that's been used on this. That's a personal thing. You can call it creative if you want. That's a personal opinion, and I don't score on that. I'll just take that as a fact. What looks like in post-processing, it has created a halo around the edges of the mirror, both the outer edge of it and the inner edges. That comes about in doing too much in post-processing. But it's a pretty smart image. I'll give this a 7.
Face in the doorway.
It's a well-seen subject, the building with the artwork in there. The framing of the structure certainly enhances what you're really using as your main subject, and that is the face. And we all have to recognize, of course, that's someone else's artwork, something that you don't want to do in photography. You're presenting your art, and the strongest part of your art is what you present other than a record of what somebody else has done, if you understand what I mean. And so far as the rest of the image is concerned, excuse me when I bend over and look at the other image because it helps me. It's well exposed, it's sharp, which is good. The colors are very, very vibrant, which is nice. On the technical parts of it, well, on the cropping, never crop right at the very, very tip where you have it at the point of the roof line. Another thing, in your photo editing software, you have a control that corrects the distortion, the barrel distortion. If you look at the artwork and look to the right of that, you've got sort of a almost straight edge going down. It's not really straight, but then you look to the right where the purple line is, it's bowed out. Look to the door to the left, you'll see it's bowed out there. That's a simple correction to do in Photoshop and other editing software. So pay attention to those kinds of things. And anything architectural, always pay a lot of attention to that particular feature. Let's let it go in as a 7. We'll see it again.
Black swans feeding in algae-covered pond.
Very often you hear judges comment about things are better in 3s when you have 2s here. And I say that's all right for this reason. There's some way you, in some fashion, say, it's a couple, it's a he and a she, but who knows? I don't know. But so couples are okay when it comes to animals, I believe, and birds and such. The title, although long, really says what you got here. On the negative side, it's very busy with a halo all around the animals, around the birds themselves. You've got the shadow. Look at the bottom part of the animal in the foreground. You'll see the shadow. Just look immediately underneath that. You see how bright that is? Follow that all around the image. You'll see that's occurring. The bird in the background at the top of the head going to the right and down, you'll see that too. That's just overworking it in your photo editing. The sharpness appears to be at the on top or the back of the bird in the foreground, but then everything else gets a little bit soft. And I think it's way, way over processed, especially the background. All those white blobs that you have can be cloned out. That's a distraction. As far as the crop goes, I think very well done. It frames the birds very, very nicely. You have the correct amount of space on top of the head, to the left of the neck, and in the upper left, and behind the butt on the right, and then on the bottom. So it's good in that regard. But the over processing, I think, hurts you on this. 6.
Over Victoria Falls.
Either you have a very tall tripod or a long selfie stick to get this. I'm looking at my other image. Okay. My larger screen has the appearance of being washed out, but on my other monitor, which I always use, by the way, I always use two monitors above. The reason I'm using it tonight is because the microphone works on the laptop and it doesn't on my larger screen. Compositionally, nice diagonal lines, nice S curves. The S curve in the center, of course, the diagonal lines is on the deep cut where the waterfall is to the right. I'm holding my hand up, simulating a cropping. The image has, I believe, more in the image than is necessary to have this be a pretty terrific image. Just to the left of the S curve, if you measure off some distance and use that as your point of a crop, keeping in the roadway, the blue water, and the falls, I think that would be a lot better. 7.
Looking at you.
The first comment I have is the border that you have around the image. That's the first thing my eyes went to, because that's what happens when you have white. If you didn't have that there, the first thing I would look at was where the head is and the eyes. Always just use a like about 3 to 4 pixel frame around your image, so you don't have that. As far as the actual image, I won't hold that against you, but keep that in mind for future presentations. The animal is nicely framed, or nicely cropped. I think you cropped it in a perfect way. The only little thing that you want to look at is, if you show this again, the ear to the right is touching the white line. And you can create a little space there. It'll be better. If you have more in your image than you're showing here, if you can reposition the subject so that you'll have a greater amount of space to the right, even if the animal becomes closer to center, I would say that would help in your composition. The colors are magnificent. The exposure is really good. You've got the sharpness in the eyes and in the, I'll call him his goatee, what they hear there at his chin. The background looks a little busy. However, it's a very natural look. 7.
Sky's the limit.
I like it when people really see what's around them. I know one guy, a friend of mine, does some really good photography work. Here and there, once in a while, he comes up with these things, and he does a good job of them. I think this is a pretty terrific one also. The exposure is really good. The sharpness is really good. The diagonal lines is really good. You have a choice when you're taking photographs like this. So what you do is start thinking about the little tiny parts of the image. Some of it can be taken care of in post, but it's best when you're doing it right there. You might find an area where it didn't have that hinge that you have there, because the hinge is a bit of a distraction. If you look at distractions, lower right corner, lower left corner, on the upper right with that little triangle black mark coming in about 1/10 of the way vertically on the right hand side. Those are what's called distractions. If you can position your camera taking this photograph and think about those kind of things and try to make it as clean as you can. 7.
Okay. Zabriskie Point.
What's nice about digital competition, you can throw away having to fit them into standard 16 by 20 formats or 8 by 10s or whatever you want. So the panorama is a good choice here of this nature image. On my other screen, the colors are smarter, and also based on that, I say the exposure is really good. The darks are really nicely placed. Nice placed. They're well recorded in this image, and I'm looking to find anything that's a distraction, and I can't find that. You know, I keep pushing myself to make sure I do say something about those things. You could crop this in to eliminate a little bit of the whiteness in the lower right-hand corner. And then after you do that, you might look at the left to see if you can clone in some light type colors of the rocks that are in the background. And that'll just smarten up the image a little bit more. And that's a 7. Should I go into this much critiquing at this point?
Well, we have 88 total pictures tonight.
Yeah, but just basically, should I just look at them and give 6 or 7?
No, we want your comments.
Okay, fine. Oh boy, do we get this around here where I live in Bradley Beach. We have lakes on the northern and southern border. Every time you drive there, you got to deal with these guys. And they don't move out of your way. They just take their time. Like I said before, 3s are always pretty good. And here you go. I'm looking on the screen again. I'm not going to tell you that all the time. You can see me doing that. I'll have to adjust this big screen so it'll show more realistically. The exposure's all good. The sharpness could be a little smarter on the birds themselves. The sharpness here is more on the vehicle. Overall, composition-wise, where your subjects are, to me, it's just a little disinteresting, if you understand what I mean. If you took the subject with just the birds walking across the street, that would be totally not interesting at all. With the fact you've got the car in there does add to it. So that's sort of a contradiction. The vastness of all of the asphalt taking up that percentage of the photograph hurts this image as well. 6.
That's one tasty sneaker.
Oh, how could he do that? Not how can he bend that way, but just think of the germs and all of that on it. Oh my God. I guess this comes in the area of street photography. Street performer on the street, on the sidewalk, I guess in this case. The image is pretty sharp. It's tough to take a photograph and it looks like almost direct sunlight and maybe a little bit filtered. But considering that, the exposure, it comes off pretty nicely. It would have helped if you waited till he looks into the lens when you're taking these kind of photographs. Take several of them and try to do something to attract the person. I bet you he's scanning his audience when he's doing it, so wait for the right time. Looking away like that doesn't help. In distractions, the thing that distracts me the most is that color yellow in the upper right-hand area of the image. When the image came up, I looked at the subject first, and then I looked over at the yellow thing. That's called a distraction, as is the red area above the hat. You can select those areas and reduce that contrast down to almost a gray, would help support the image itself. Another little distraction. I know you're going to say, man, that guy's a pain in the butt, but the chair to the far left of the image. So if you're there, try to reposition yourself to not have them. The fact that the leg is cropped where it is okay. If you had cropped it where his ankle is or his knee is, that's a big no-no, but you did fine by that. It's 7.
A thing of beauty.
I like the fact that you're using a square crop that works really well with roundish shaped flowers. You've got yourself enough of space around the petals to make this, acceptable. You could give a little more at the top and a little more at the left. Try to make the space from the flower to the edge to your left the same as to what you have on the right. Ditto top and bottom. The right amount of space in an image like this, if you take that space to the right of the edge of the petal to the right, use that same space all around. It'll help center this flower in the middle. I love how you've got the background, which is a very busy background, and you've got that all blurred out very, very nicely, and it's not that much of a distraction. Again, getting fussy. In the lower part of the image, where you have those different color leaves or what have you, I don't know what they are, you can select that whole lower edge of the flower, select that and do some cloning and get that out, because that serves a little bit of a distraction as well. Flower competition is tough because it's a perfect subject, and there's a lot of people shooting flowers, and in a competition there's so many great perfect images of flowers. When they're up against other images that give other kinds of values, such as strong storytelling or a unique image, usually judges tend to score those over the perfect flowers. Keep that in mind when you're choosing what kind of an image you'd like to submit. 7.
Across the river.
All right, the image is very well exposed. You've got some pretty dark areas in here in the curve of the arch, and you've got the brightness of a what looks like a direct sunlit day. This place is a great place to photograph in the railroad station in Jersey City. This is a good choice of selection of a subject. So I say, this is my photograph. What can I do to make it better? Once again, this is a little bit of a panorama, which is good. Maybe you could make it lessen the amount of space in the foreground. I see like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 places. The one in the last one, less so, but it looks like where the light's coming in through windows. I think if you eliminate the one that's right in the foreground would add to this photograph. But it's very, very sharp, and it's a nice choice. I like also where, again, this is an architectural image, and what you've done is you've corrected the straightness of the lines going up and down. If you look at where the windows are, that you paid a lot of attention to that, as well as that detail in the ceiling. 7.
Southwest monolith.
Again, excellent choice of this being a panorama. Judged an end-of-year competition for a club. There was 3 judges, and one of the judges said, "Oh, this color is too bright. It's off. It's not natural." I and the other judge, we were both frequent in the Southwest, and we said, "No, that's the color." They're remarkable places to go. In this image, to comment on it, the tightness of the crop at the top kills you on this. There's no reason to have it chopped at that point. You see there's 2 bumps at the top, the bump to the right. That's the kind of space you want over the highest most point. The structure to the left looks like a man-made structure. I'm sure it's not, because I don't know of any place out in the Southwest that has a building like that near what I'm assuming to be some national park. The clouds in all beautiful color, nice contrast in colors between the pink, which would suggest the sunset, and the blue. I even like the little, let's call it a beauty mark. That would be that bright spot to the right. I'm assuming that that's the sun. But if you're going to show this in another competition, I would say try to clone that out. That might be a distraction in that we can't define it as a moon or a sun. 7.
Tiger at rest.
Beautiful, very nice. This is the way you would present it if you were presenting a print, right? It would work really well. With a digital image, they always work better, again, with that 3 to 5 pixel single white line around your image. It helps to emphasize the image, not a distraction like this one is. Just focus on the subject. You got a great subject. The colors are fantastic, and the details are, and the sharpness is sharp in the face, or as people say, in where it's supposed to be. And there's a little fall off in the body of the image, but that's to be expected in a shot like this. You can't wait for the animal unless you want to wait around all day to move someplace else, because they don't move around much. Try going earlier in the day and later in the day. The animal's a little more active then, especially if you know their feeding time. I'm assuming this is a zoo. I learned that from somebody who specializes in shooting animals in the zoos, and you can't believe that they're not in the wild. I'm 7.
Mountain Drive.
This is a beautiful place. You got the nice curve there, and you got dual curves, so to speak, and then you've got 3 curves. You got one in the upper right I just noticed. The image on the most part is very sharp, a little fall off up in the upper left. I think if you went to an F22 or something of that sort, you might have gotten it a little sharper. Compositionally, you've got that nailed. I see the 3 curves lined up the way they are. And if you look at almost like a diagonal line, upper right-hand corner down to the lower left, it just has that heavy tree area in the background. That's sort of neat too. I look around the edges to see if I could find any little things. See, upper right-hand corner, clone out that little bright white spot. To the left, just above horizontal in the center, that bright area too. Those are small distractions. And you can use your darkening tool to just darken the lower right hand. Let me see, I'm looking at the other image. No, that's okay. 7.
Innermost thoughts.
You know what you're going to say about the heavy white line around it is taking away from the image, so I won't say more detail about that. This is really super sharp in the center, and it does fall off around the edges, especially to the left. But it's a nice choice of how you've cropped this. You didn't include all the petals. You didn't include just the center where there's no of the background in the image. If you could, in the upper left-hand area where the background is, it looks like that background is shared by yet another red flower. You can clone the green into that area, as well as to the bottom left-hand corner, a little bit there. And maybe even in the center portion, if you get some green in there, that'll help separate the image from the background and not have the viewer of this image wonder about what that is. 7.
Teak.
What's that? Okay, I see that. Oh, the technicals, right on, proper exposure, very sharp throughout. Nice choice of where the image has been cropped. Of course, I'm not going to let you get away with just that. Lower right-hand corner, do some work on that to eliminate that little area where it shows a bluish green color and the shadow of the curve. Very nice image. 7.
X marks the spot.
Well chosen subject. Strange. It appears that the X should be dead center, but it's not. But the cropping of the yellow round area, green, and the blue circular areas are cropped in such a way that suggests that should be in the center too. However, this is a hand-painted artwork by somebody else that allows for this not to be at center, even though the illusion is that it should be. and the exposure is great. The sharpness is fantastic. The only thing that hurts you on this, I think personally, is somebody else's artwork. You always have to keep that in mind. 7.
2 at the feeder.
The image first came up, I looked at the feeder itself. Only when I heard the title did I, oh yeah, there they are. The point being that I think the birds are the subject, but they're at a very minimal part of the image, if you understand what I mean. The background is like super busy. That can, if you use the proper f-stop, go down to as low a number as you could in your f-stops at 0.2, or what have you, and to focus on the birds. And also, I think if you just focus what you see in focus on the birds, look into your viewfinder and look at them and what they're doing. Then you have to question whether or not that's going to be a strong image into itself. But just judging what I see here is a 6.
South African cutie pie.
First thing I notice here is a lack of any framing around the image. I don't know where the image leaves us, except where the right-hand side, where the finger is. You've got a good exposure and great detail in the finger at the knuckles, or where the joints are. Where you want the most focus in an image like this is the critter itself, and that's really soft. And the harshness of the hand against the all black background is something that highlights the hand a lot and lessens the focus on the I can't call it animal, lizard, with a frog, whatever it is. 6.
Cheetah.
Okay, it's a great choice of a subject. Of course, you got in very, very tight in a very controlled way. The animal was in a strange position. Perhaps it was laying down and looking over its back, because I don't see any body over to the left side, which is fine. Though the animal is not looking into the camera, which is something that's preferred, it's super sharp. The whole body, everything about the animal is very sharp. You control the depth of field very, very well. You blurred out the background very, very nicely. 7. Oh, and you had a proper size frame around your image.
Roots.
Obviously, a filter of some sort was used here. It was a great choice of a filter to use. Once again, creative. It's very personal. What I can comment on, the highlights are not blown out totally, and you have darker areas, and everything is sharp. 7.
Tioga afternoon.
That's a beautiful landscape. Um, uh, where the photographer stood and positioned themselves and how they um, used the horizon just above the middle is a really good choice. How it's cropped at the top is excellent. Nice exposure, nice reflection. Um, Most likely this is reflection that was put in by nature. Now there's software out there. You can't duplicate this just to what you see here. Nice that you've done it on your own. Hope I'm right on that. I like the proper line around the image, the weight of it. There's only one thing that I can see that you can do to make this, you can improve upon this image. Upper left-hand corner, you see where those, the trees are coming into the upper left-hand corner. That's really easy to select that area and just clone some of that bluish and white cloud to the right into that area. That'd help a bit. 7.
Bull trying to cool his mate.
Yeah, and humans do that. We're arrested for her sexual harassment, right? All right, you've got something other than a straightforward, I'm on a safari, I'm taking a snapshot of an elephant shot here, which is a good thing. It appears to me that the guy on, or lady or whatever on the right is stuck in the mud, and most likely the other one is trying to help them out of there. These are very smart animals. I like the fact that you have this unusual scene. The thing that, when I first looked at this image, I saw the animals, and at the next nanosecond, I looked at the strong diagonal in the background where see that fence line that starts just above the center line to the left and falls off to the right. That's a huge distraction. I'm just trying to imagine if this image was straightened out, could that add to it? Hopefully you have more in your frame than you show here, and go back and recrop that so that fence line goes to the right. Okay, 6.
NYC, I miss you.
New York City skyline is always wonderful. This is well done. In the total quality of the colors here are really nice. It's a mix of certain tones of browns, beiges, or what have you. There's a little accent of the green on the roofs and along the tree line. Um, if you could, there's ways to strengthen the sky a little bit. I don't mean just change it totally, but you can, with these sharp lines around the buildings, you can easily select just that area. And there are settings in photo editing software that can help you bring those skies out. In the water, I would say you could select that and just make it a tad more contrasty and a tad darker at the same time. So there's not such a sharp contrast in tonal range between that and the tree line. 7.
Twilight over Monument Valley.
Yeah, Monument Valley, beautiful place. If you haven't been there, put it on your bucket list. Obviously, the choice of a panoramic is excellent. As I said, I've got 2 screens. The one I have shows things very lighter on my larger screen, but I can see detail easier on that. Then I have my other screen that's showing, I think, more realistic. And it seems that there should be in the darker colors, both in the mid-range in the center below the sky and in the sloped areas in the foreground, should be made a little bit lighter, because it's a beautiful curved line underlining the skyline of the stone structures, and it won't hurt you with the sky brightness. So try that. 7.
Okay, we're ready for round 2, and we have 21 to score. Class B, open, round 2. Hello.
Okay, I'm scoring 7, 8, 9 now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's hard to not comment on things I commented before. Okay,
Well, you don't have to comment now. You already did. So if you know.
I don't have to? Okay, 7.
No.
7. 7. 7. 8. 8.
Zabreski Point, I should be saying.
9.
That's one tasty sneaker.
7.
A thing of beauty.
7.
Across the river.
8.
Southwest monolith.
8.
Tiger at rest.
9.
Mountain drive.
7.
Innermost thoughts.
8.
Peak.
9.
X marks the spot.
7.
Cheetah.
8.
Roots.
8.
Tioga afternoon.
9.
NYC, I miss you.
9.
Twilight over Mountain Valley.
9.
Okay, round 3. We're going to give first, second, third, and the remaining will get honorable mention. What I'll do is I'll throw it into here so you can see.
You want first, second, third, or third, second, first?
Well, whatever you're more comfortable.
Okay. Third is the image I see to the far right.
This is third place?
Uh,
Is that the one you're talking about?
yes.
Okay.
Second is that one there.
Which one? This one?
Yep. I'm ignoring the big white heavy frame around it.
Okay. And first place?
Would be that one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Stonebridge Photography Club, Open Class B. Honorable mention. Nebraska Point Ed, congratulations. Teak, Michelle, honorable mention. NYC, I miss you. Michelle again, great job. Third place, Twilight over Mountain Valley, Ed, great. Second place, Tiger at Rest, Walter, great. And first place, Tioga Afternoon, Ed, wow, Ed, really great. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the middle group, which is our Class A.
Should I go faster or just
If you
read?
could go a little faster, it's 8:28, so if you can go a little faster,
No problem.
yeah. Stonebridge Photography Club, Open Class A, Pier 1.
All right, really, really nice subject. I like the I'm going to call it the beigey or brownish um, color tones in this, suggestive of the season, perhaps. I don't know. The big thing here is the crop. You should crop just above the highest point on the mast in the boat to the right, which would help the image a lot. I find that the colors are a little strange. I don't have a better way to explain it, but I think if the colors are adjusted to be a little more realistic, that would help. 6.
Improv.
All right, it's a nice nice find. It has a lot of interest. Um, Architectural photograph, of course, perspective control. If you look at the straight vertical lines of the edges and match them up to the sides of the door, that should be corrected before you present it. There's a bright white area about a third of the way down on the right. That should be cloned out for sure. The lower right-hand corner is a distraction. That should be cloned out there as well to not be such a strong distraction. It really is. 6.
Life in downtown Amsterdam.
Amsterdam's a beautiful town to shoot. It certainly shows what's there with the bicycles and all. The photographer's choice to use a filter to come up with it's really neat. I think again, it's hard to judge these things. I like to always put them in the second category anyway, just to have another look at it. So it'll be a 7.
Sunset.
Lacking is the line telling me where the edges of this image is. It kind of falls off on the bottom. Something different for presenting as a sunset, that's for sure. What comes to our mind right away, what's going on in California. Looks like a sunset in California with the fires and all of that. So I asked myself what the subject here is the foreground, the it looks like a burnt tree or a dead tree. And the way that it cuts the image in two as well is something uncomfortable appearing. Perhaps looking at this image and repositioning it in a different way, having a line around it, strike line around it would help. 6.
Sweet blossoms.
Oh, a different take on flowers. Once again, unless I'm totally mistaken, this is done with some sort of a filtering process as well. The overall appearance is very pleasant. I look at a diagonal line with the 3 green flowers. Then again, I don't know, maybe it is an actual straight on photograph. I'm looking at the center flower with the kind of line going around part of the petal to on the left. It's interesting. 7.
Halloween treats.
All right. Technically, the image is fine as far as the sharpness is concerned. Nice lines going toward the back with the 2 shelves on the sides. Once again, perspective control should be used here. Look at the supports for the shelf to the right. They're all on angles. That's a very easy correction. You could have shown some space at the top of the hat on that figure that's there. Chopping it off hurts a little bit. Got a very busy background. You could maybe have softened or darkened that up to not have that take away from the image. 6.
Island in my dream.
Very beautiful subject. Picture perfect, as you might say. Proper use of a strike line around the image. I hope people learn from that. Normally, I would say there's too much water showing, but because you have the darker colors of the reflection of the island, it somehow works in this image. And I'm using a card, actually not a card, just glass case to crop. Although the sky is really nice too, you always have to make a choice. What do you do? When I say chop some of the sky out, your horizon's still going to be not in the center. So yeah, this is a player for sure. 7.
Coffee starts with the bean.
A lot of people don't know that, what they look like before they're harvested. Okay, nice strong diagonal of the branch. It's a little hot, and you can select that area and tone it down just a little bit, not a lot. In selecting, you can select the background where that lighter branch and leaf is showing, and just darken that down quite a bit. The other foliage on the branch looks okay. You could darken the lowermost part of it where there's 2 bright leaf components underneath the branch. You could darken those a little bit. 7.
Wood pile.
These are attractive subjects. When we're out in the winter time and driving about, inevitably you come across a sawmill or something like that, or maybe just somebody's stack of wood for the winter. Lots of interesting details. Try next time you're there, go in really, really close, and you'll be amazed at what you can come up with. But the snow is very, very difficult to shoot. And I see nice textures in the uppermost part of the pile, but then when you go off to the left of the largest piece of wood just to the left. All that white is blowing out. That's not a good thing. You gotta pay attention to those things. 6.
My impression.
This is popular in your club for using these different filters. But they're sort of neat. Somebody told me once they're images that are sort of personal and look great on your wall. How does it do in a photography competition? I guess that's up to the judge. And so we'll just comment on the photograph, forgetting about how it's been worked. Okay, you've got a street scene here with it may be a street, it might be a waterway. Looking at the ripples in it, most likely it's a waterway, taking the picture from a bridge or what have you. So compositionally, that's fine. How the two leading lines go off into the almost dead center of the image. It's nice framing with the trees. 7.
I made it.
So it's a sort of a mixed nature shot with mixed social media / not selfie, but social media type shot. So in that respect, it's sort of contradictory. As a landscape shot, it's really, really nice. You've got a nice strong base for a foreground for your image. You've got a layer of the lighter colored leaves, and you've got nice lines in the rocky makeup of that mountain to the right. The horizon's a little off. If you look at that blue line in the back just below the clouds, that should definitely be straightened out. 6.
Morning fog over the New Zealand south coast.
A beautiful place to be. Nice that you were there to catch this and capture it. Beautiful layering from the water line to the foreground hills and mountains, and then the cloud cover in the valleys, and then the next layer of the mountains in the background. Very nicely done. Proper line around it. That's fine. I just so that I always try to make a comment to say what possibly you could look at to make it even better. And I'd say bring up the contrast a little bit. And I'm looking at my other image and lighten up a little bit on the darker areas, and then get some punch in your clouds. Again, you could select that very easily because the hard lines on your mountain edge. 7.
Lonely tree.
Yeah, these are fun to find. I shoot them often, and to varying success. This particular image, the 2 things that stood out to me. First off, the tree is well placed. The base of it is anyway to the rule of thirds to the left. I would say crop it so that it's even more so to the third rule of thirds, with the body of the tree being there. Another thing you can do is straighten out your horizon, and it's not going to be as much of an angle that it is now. And when you crop out a lot of the blue at the top, you've got way too much space up there. As far as a lonely tree, that's a good thing to find, and that was a good choice in that regard. But with the horizon the way it is and the space at the top of the tree, that's a 6.
Frozen.
Oh, that's what those other flowers were, frozen. Okay. Well, it wasn't an effect. All right, technically everything is very, very sharp. The areas that aren't sharp is because it's got perhaps ice on it. So that's something that's totally acceptable. It's a nice way that you've cropped this image. Could it be cropped? No. So 7.
Decorative park lamp.
All right, nicely found. When you see these things, you can't help but to photograph them. They're just beautiful. This particular image, the thing that stands out the most is the lamp post being on an angle, something very easy to correct with perspective control. You've got harsh lighting, and the results are that everything looks over sharpened or overly contrasty. The position of the lamp post within your crop is fine. It's off center. That's what you want. But the sharpness thing is just way overdone. 6.
The last ferry to shore.
Nice, strong storytelling image, I believe. You have people engaged in the image when they're walking on this pathway. Maybe not even anything to do with the boat itself, which would be nice, but it's not. Okay, it's very nicely cropped. Everything is sharp. You've got a great subject. I like the amount of space above the mask. That's fine. Some people could say it should be a little tighter, but this is fine. Your horizon is in a good place. 7.
Paddling.
All right, the image is sharp. I don't see anything that's out of focus. It's a fun activity, a good, strong storytelling image. She looks like she might be on her cell phone. However, that disturbs me. No, only kidding. Background. You know what? When you take pictures of waterways, sometimes you can put a level on your camera and say it's perfectly level. When you look at it, it's on an angle. So after so many competitions, me being told that the horizon's off, what I do now is I actually correct the horizon, and I suggest you do that here. That might help. If you understand what I mean. It's off on a little bit of an angle to the right. The water looks good. I look at 3 things together: the grass detail to the left, and the 2 people in the kayaks. I like that. 7.
Taiwan Lady of the Sand.
Great subject. Really nice. The exposure is nice. The detail is really, really good with the soft sky in the background. You know, it's hard to take photographs when you go on trips like this without having a lot of people in there. And that certainly takes away from the image. You can easily select the sky and use the hard edge of the stone around it to get a really good selection and easily clone the skies in to take all those people out. This is an A group, so you know you should be knowledgeable on how to do that, but I'm not going to have that weigh on my decision to give it a 7.
Faces, faces, faces.
Technicals, it's sharp. The colors are vivid, but because it's artwork, who knows what the color should be. Again, it's somebody else's artwork. Think about that when you're out shooting. But you want to try to have something to be your own, but because it's sharp, it's well exposed, I'll give it a 7.
The first stereo camera.
Technicals, it's super sharp. The colors are right on. It's obvious that this is taken either by a very bright light above on an angle or somebody holding a flash. As So the only distraction in this is the highlight, the brightly lit highlight above the lens to the right. It depends on your comfort level and your ability. There's plenty of material to your left where you can clone that to cover up the area that is overly, overly bright, which is a major distraction here. Otherwise, it's a good choice of a subject, and everything else came out fine. 7.
First protection.
Exposure is right on. What hurts this image is the cropping. You look at all that space you have above. I think it's a barrel of a weapon of some sort. Rust is nice, and that came out pretty well. The sharpness falls off as the barrel goes down, and then you have all the distractions of the foliage in the background, and then the super distraction is that light brown area on the bottom. So, this is all about getting a much more tighter crop. Maybe a crop just at the end of the barrel would be better for this subject. As it's presented, it's a 6.
Okay, we have 12 for round 2. Open Class A, Life in Downtown Amsterdam.
Oh, I'm sorry. 8.
Sweet Blossoms.
This is the one that I thought was
Yeah,
it's not. So 7. Sorry, I had a distraction.
that's okay. Island in My Dream.
9.
Coffee Starts with the Bean.
7.
My Impression.
7.
Morning Fog over New Zealand's southern coast.
9.
Frozen.
9.
The Last Ferry to Shore.
8.
Paddling.
7.
Taiwan Lady of the Sand.
7.
Faces, Faces, Faces.
7.
The First Stereo Camera.
8.
Okay. We have 3 in, we're going to do first, second, and third.
Okay, the middle one is first place. That one first.
Okay.
That's the one to the far left is second. That's second.
Okay. Stonebridge Photography Club, Open Class A, third place. Frozen, Flo Emin, fantastic. Open second place. Island of My Dreams, Harvey Josephson, very nice Harvey. And first place, Morning Fog over New Zealand's southern coast, Mark.
Yay, Mark.
Thank you. I couldn't say it to myself.
I'm looking for that.
Okay. Now we're going to do Class AA.
This is your top category, correct?
Correct. All right, and we have 39 here. Open Class AA, Vienna House Horse Install.
Beautifully done. The technicals are all there. Everything is sharp. The head's a little blown out. Another version of this could be more to be cropped without the competition of the bridle. I think that's what it is. Maybe it's, yes, I think it's a bridle. And to the lower right, it's beautifully done. 7.
Autumn cornfields.
First overall impression is like, wow. And then I looked at it a little bit closer. Maybe you're trying to take too much to put into your image, that perhaps a tighter crop would show more detail of all of the information that's in the center portion of the image. Your feel, of course, you've got the repetition or the texture and all that, which is good, but it's not enough of contrast in it. But it's just it's massive, and it takes up almost 50% of your image. The clouds look a little overdone. But because of the impression I have when I first looked at it, I'll give it a 7.
Technicolor couple.
Either one of them brought their parents' house. I wonder what they'd say. But maybe they go well together. Somehow this wire fence doesn't bother me. And the fact that the colors are in your title and in the image itself, it kind of works. You've got a nice line around it. You've got a nice balance of the two individual people, and 7.
Sultry eyes.
Of course, drafts with their angle on their necks like that always works well, and then together with the vertical of the face. This image has a lot lacking in it. First off, it's not sharp. It's just a little tiny bit is sharp on that bump on his forehead, if you want to call it that. You know, it's cropped too tight on the top. The crop is too tight on the chin, and there's a distraction of those wooden pieces, and it's a 6.
The firehouse.
Nice find. The colors, I'm sure, is what brought you to this, because otherwise it wouldn't be much of an image. So that's a good thing. I have to say this, putting a color line like that takes away from the image personally. You put a white line around there, that's fine. Otherwise, it looks like that's part of what you're showing as artwork, and it doesn't fit. Everything is nice and vertical. There's no lens barrel effect in it. 7.
Know it all.
Good choice of the title. Excellent choice. Very familiar household object. The way it's presented is great in that it shows just the business end of it, so to speak. Now the background is blurry. The subject is very, very sharp. It falls off a little bit to the back end of the blue ring, which would have made it a little bit nicer, but otherwise it's pretty neat. 7.
A day at the beach.
I live just a few blocks from the beach. I got to get out there more often with these snow fences. I see a lot of them in competitions, but I've never shot them myself. Okay, bright sunlight is the thing that's hurting you most in this image. Compositionally, your horizon is right where it should be. Nice clouds. You've got some storytelling going on with the unattended chairs. I know, you might say it's picky, but you got chairs looking off to the left. if they were looking to the right, that would be better. If you had people in them, that would be better too. But the thing that's hurting you most is the brightness of the day. 6.
Misery.
All right, this is an interesting image. It's interesting in that it's cropped square, but once again, we have that freedom, don't we, with digital presentation. The first thing I noticed is the uniqueness of the image, the uniqueness of the coloring. And the second thing I looked at is how well this is presented in every other way. Why would you crop it so tight to the left and not leave some space there? I don't know about the coloring of the skin and all of that. This might be a set shop on a workshop or something like that. It might not be. But the storytelling is really, really good with the glass of wine in the foreground, the position of the subject, the not that this will affect the points, but I'm looking at this because of the shopping cart with all the belongings in it and the subject. The subject doesn't look like to be a typical homeless, but that's not the takeaway. 7.
The puddle jumper.
Interesting perspective. I like the line of the puddles going from front to back, and then the lines from foreground to background. That's really nice, like the bench back there. Choice of colors is a personal thing, and the subject being where they are, even though they're sort of centered, is fine. I like where the horizon is, which would be right with the top of her shoulders. The sky is overly bright, but it might work with the way that this image was presented in the color choice and such. And the bald sky matches the puddles, and that kind of neat. And some judge might say the puddles are all blown out, but you know what? That's the way they look in nature. 7.
Step cautiously.
All right, we got some nice strong detail in the, I think it's a leaf on the top of the box for the button. You got some detail in the signage behind it, and everything is blurred in the back. That's a good thing. It sort of tends to be overly busy with a lot of detail, shapes, and contrast, black and white portions of the subject in the foreground, and ditto for the background. 7.
Outside, inside.
This is a nice, interesting image, something a little bit different, nicely seen. Everything is very sharp. The gentleman in the background is not, but pretty far away. And I'd say for the type of an image it is, like looking through the glass and all of that, that in this case it would be acceptable. If it were really sharp and right on, that would be super, but I think difficult to attain. If the image were mine, I would check the perspective control. It's important for images like this, the horizontal lines up in the upper part of the image and in the center, if you can get those to be parallel with the top edge of the image or the lower edge, that would help the image. A little bit on the bottom, but that's not that far off to be noticeable. But the right edge of the window frame is noticeable, as is the left. Straighten those things out will help. 7. But nice find.
Through rose-colored glasses.
Again, a certain type of a composition, and it's hard to weigh this against the more classic type of images that we see. And is it something I like or not? Yeah, I like it. And what's not to like about it? It's creative. It's got the face in there, and you've got the foliage. 7. I would change the pink surround to white, by the way, make it a little thinner.
Soaring gull.
Can't get any sharper than that. In a nice position, a nice head-on shot, as if the bird is up there posing for you, looking right at you. Um, there is detail in the clouds or sky. If you could bring that out, very easy thing to do. Select that. You've got sharp edges of the bird to give you good separation, and just work on that sky to bring out 7. Nicely positioned also.
Say hello, Peppy.
All right, the technicals, it's not dead direct sunlight. It's filtered in some fashion, which is nice. The light colors of the shirt comes out really nice. All the foliage, all the texture of the fabric on the pants and the shirt comes out really well. You've got a nice expression on the gentleman's face. I even like the little vent in the wall somehow. Maybe the blue coming together with the pants works. I don't know. People with pets and all of that, I don't know. Sometimes it takes away. I would like to see in the shot without the animal in it, but that's just me. Also, you have the pose of the animal in disposing all the junk. I don't know if that's a positive part of it. 7.
Canal.
Beautiful location, beautifully done, nicely composed. The leading lines are fantastic and they're off-centered a bit. That's good. You got a bunch of birds that cooperated with you. One of the birds in the upper left-hand corner almost looks like it was a clone that didn't stick right or something. I think if you just get that out, that would lessen that distraction. Perspective control is needed on your right-hand side, and not talking about the fence posts. That's probably the way it is. But if you look at the vertical lines on the windows and doorway to the right, it's unlike the left that is right on. 7.
Lake Tapestry.
I was at a park last week and I saw a lot of these reflections, and I came back and I looked at some of them and I came up with the same results that I have here. Although everything technically is right on, it's very sharp throughout. The colors are good and so on and so forth. It's just way too busy, lacking any focus. I know you've got a little clump of greenery in the just to the right of the center of the image, but it's not strong enough to carry it. It's 6.
A time better forgotten.
Never been there. Seen a lot of pictures of it though. I may be incorrect. I'm assuming this is Eastern State Penitentiary. And maybe there's other places in the world like that because I haven't seen this particular picture. Very well done in the detail. Details are sharp, good strong lines. You've got repetitive pattern there, which is very, very desirable. In this, you've got the lines going to the center, and once you follow those lines, you've got something to show people with the doorway in the back and that beautiful window. And then you've got a little accent in the middle with that little, what looks like a bench, but who knows what it is. That's 7.
Never-ending work.
There's always something going around in the city to capture. On the technicals, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't look like a sharp image. I don't know. I don't know if it's even a blur or a texture or what have you over it, but it's not totally sharp. A little bit of texture, not texture, control over that, the vertical lines to the left, perspective control could help. But the thing that hurts this the most, that it's more or less of a record shot of this. Had you focused more on the people working in the foreground, doing something, that would have made a stronger image. 6.
Watching.
Well, it's interesting to observe this, and certainly in its entirety, the beautiful arrangement of flowers, and somebody put some posters in the window, and then on top of that, you've got some reflections of what the reality of the area is, which I like, those 3 separate things. Then as a judge, you have to say, well, gosh, we're photographing somebody else's photograph, other people's artwork. But your artwork here as presented is those 3 elements that I just spoke of, which sort of comes together. Your control over your perpendicular lines or perspective control is really, really good, like that. 7.
Egret in the tall reeds.
The detail and is so crisp, not overly done, very sharp, except of course for the reeds or foliage or what have you. Colors are fantastic. Positioning of the bird in the center doesn't bother me. Would it work and would a more tighter crop? Maybe be just left alone. The softness of all of the foliage in the foreground, I know you can't help that. You really can't. But it's at 7.
Decisions.
The image is very sharp. The fact that he's in direct sunlight, I don't know how, but the texture in the skin held. There's no blowouts. The background is busy but blurred, and there's a different color than the main subject. That works really, really well. You've got it nicely framed with the right weight line around it. That's good. You got a little bit of a highlight in the eyes, excuse me. If you had the subject looking at you, how much better of an image this would make. Looking off like that is not something that's desirable. 7, because everything else is done so well.
Dream Street.
Looking at the 2 images, overall it could be a little bit brighter, not that it's going to affect the points. Okay, nicely seen. You even have the blue car seems to be part of the program, right? With the bold colors. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with it, but nonetheless. The sky is terrific. The interest of the image is really good. The colors are being vivid like that makes it come alive and becoming an interesting image. Too bad you couldn't go there without the cars being there, right? 7.
Stuff.
Nice choice of black and white. Very, very sharp. Too bold of a border around it. I'm tired of hearing you say that, right? I don't take points off for that because too many people do it and I don't want to abuse it. But think about it the next time you present your images. It's busy, but at the same time, the weight of the heavier materials coming up in an almost X or a V shape with another line going from a quarter up from the middle to the upper right. Together, it all comes together very nicely. 7.
Street chalk artist.
That's an interesting find. You got the artwork and the artwork that the artist is looking at to create the image. I don't know how they do it that close. I've seen larger murals and I don't know how they do it. Compositionally, it's fantastic where the head on the street is like on a diagonal, and how you've got the cropping of the person is done very, very nicely. The exposure is good, the color is good. And you know what I'm going to say? Somebody else's artwork. 7.
Contemplating.
Very interesting position of the subject and how much she's concentrating what she's looking at in her hands. Here's a case where looking into the camera just wouldn't work, right? But very, very attractive individual, showing more than her attractiveness in what she's doing and how she's posing. Now, whether the photographer put her up to that or not doesn't make any difference. It's the end result that counts. What's a little, the cropping is fine too, by the way. That doesn't bother me too much. I know there's a couple little rules broken, but we'll go past them. The cropping at the top of the head is fine. The lighting coming in heavier one side, fine. What bothers me is in the upper left-hand corner of the image, all of those white or lighter color spots, you've got enough material up there that you can clone over that to remove them. That would add a lot to the image. And 7.
Sundance.
Oh, we got F-22 for sure, right? Look at that star. These technicals, it's sharp, really sharp at the bottom of the image. It does fall off at the top. Surprising with a f-stop being used to be able to get that flare like that wouldn't be sharp at the top as well. The attractiveness of this image, of course, is not only the structure, but the star effect of assume a light or the light of a sun. That's not a color of that. There's a distraction here, and I know it's part of the light, that little white spot to the left of the image in the clouds. But then if you look into the inside of the roof of the structure, you can see how that was created. 7.
Peekaboo with a snowy owl.
And the technicals, really sharp throughout the part of the bird that you can see. And the whites are not blown out, which is really nice to see that also. The big problem here is that what's in the foreground. Once again, I'm holding up something to crop. If you were to crop just below what is, I believe, the mouth, it will remove that distraction entirely. As I see it now, it's a 6.
Pantheon sunlit window.
I have a heated discussion with a friend of mine that photographs other people's artwork all the time. And he says, well, when you take a picture of the building, that's art. And so when it comes to something like this, is this photographing somebody else's artwork? So I have a conflict with myself. So I've sort of come to the conclusion when you're photographing the Eiffel Tower or World Trade Center or what have you, the building isn't designed for another purpose. It's not designed as artwork. This artwork is designed to be a detail of an architectural structure. So I sort of like go in that direction to say that this is something that I don't view as someone else's artwork. Hope you follow that. Anyway, this is a perfectly exposed. The details are as sharp as they can be. The color tones are fine. Someone else, other than myself, will point out that white areas blow out. I don't do that. If you looked at this, in real life, it's going to look that way. 7.
Cowboy and his horse.
Here's a good choice of somebody using, whether it be filters or effects or what have you, with more of a high key-ish type of a presentation. I think it works well. What are you going to say? The whites are blown out around the edges and disqualified? No. Or give it a low score? No. Once again, if you've got your subjects are like this, you have the horse cooperating with you, but your other subject isn't. I mean, it might work for an advertising campaign, but you're having a portrait of somebody. You want the subject looking into your eyes. Again, the exposure is really good. The darks are fine. You got a deep black and lots of tones of grays. It's nice. 7.
Parking spot.
That's an interesting choice. Maybe we should add a word in the title. Parking spot available. But anyway, we get the point. I'm looking first at the technicals. I'm looking at the windows in the center, and the other windows are really, really sharp. I'm looking at the texture of the sidewalk and all of that. It looks fine. And I'm trying, look at my other screen. The foliage is right on too. So where you give some credit to this is the uniqueness of the image. The symmetry is apparent and a great part of this image because the focus is on the empty space in the center. So you've got good technicals, you've got an interesting idea, and it's unique. 7.
Mystical trailings.
That's really interesting. Something that we see often, maybe not with that kind of a sky, but we do see these often. And never seen it put together in a photograph as this here is. The vapor trail is very sharp and very much in contrast with the rest of the image, of course. And the sky colors and all, I don't know how that happened, but it's the sky, the clouds or skies or what have you is very noisy. You can correct that. I would suggest you do that. 7.
Fair maiden.
I can't see any highlight in her eyes. Yeah, I'm serious. Here's an example of break the rules. You don't see her eyes. And you've got a great subject here. of not only the person, but the hat itself. Everything is in perfect focus, sharp as can be. The area, the chest is a little hot. You can tone that down a little bit. I think you could improve upon this. Look at the spacing of this image from the top of the hat, from the front of the hat to the edge, the back of the hat to the edge. That is what you want. A little more on the front, the way that the subject is looking, a little less behind. And this is a 7. Nicely done.
Backlit petunia.
All right, you got a nice flower, very sharp. And it's sharp in the center as well as on the edges. That's great. Nice contrast to the background. Like most of the time, your backgrounds are very busy, like this one is. Real easy to select the area all around the flower. If you don't know how, ask. Well, this is the AA group, so you'll know how to do that. But you know, using layers and Gaussian blur on one layer and selecting, erasing, and such, you can get that background blurrier than it is. And I say at the same time, use your saturation controls to bring down your yellows, especially, believe it or not, yellows, and then some of your greens. And you'll see that it'll make this flower pop even more. Now, the last thing I'll say, remember the comments I made about pictures that were cropped really well because it was a square crop? Why would you do a rectangular crop on an image like this? Leave all that space off to the left. That takes away from it. If you use the space above and even below as a guide, use the same space on the left and the right as well. 7.
Magic Castle.
I can see why you're attracted to take an image like this. But it's hard to separate a record shot from something that, you know, somebody's in a photography club and creating something that's theirs. So perhaps a different angle, the inclusion of perhaps some people to give the image a little more of a dynamic might add to it. Your perspective control wasn't done in this image. Note the angle that the lamppost is on and the tilt on the tower, the left of the 3. 7.
Festival Wheel.
Well, I'm going through the same routine about being sharp, of course, and the colors. What are the colors? You could make these colors anything you want. It's not going to change the image. To give credit to the photographer on this is waiting and taking several shots and selecting the right one and cropping it the right way for the image. And all of those things I think were done really well on this image. What would I do to improve the image? Lower right corner, lower left corner. You see how the images end up with the white lines with the lights going to it. Look at the upper left and upper right. They don't match. That would be nice if you can crop it to make those all similar. That's my opinion. Otherwise, it's really nice. 7.
Inspiration.
No, it's pretty neat you found something like this. Again, going through the drill, it's sharp, well exposed. Nothing is distracting anything in this image. Because it's centered, you can't take away from that because I think that adds a lot to the overall. 7.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, the eyes and the nose and the mouth and all that really, really sharp. It falls off, and that part of the body that looked like to me is a big jaw pocket or something. It's very, very soft in that area. The background separates from the foreground very, very well. I don't see a highlight in the eye. It should be there, but it's not. But it's a nice animal photograph, and I like the fact that you've got the way you have it cropped, where you have enough of space in the front to the left like that. 7.
One size too small.
I don't know what that means, but this is my favorite subject. Love those kind of flowers. Um, well, the technicals, color is fine. Love the different color stripes contrasting with the background. And the skin tones are right on. The direction that the lighting is coming, creating the darkened areas of the skin is really, really good. I can't say the subject should have been looking into the lens. The photographer elected to have something else looking to the lens. But it's well done. It's sharp. And again, the big thing to me is the separation of the subject to the background. I like that the most. 7.
Northern cardinal.
Like flowers, animals or birds, they're like perfect subjects. And it's up to the photographer to make sure that their cameras are set right and all of that. And here's an example of it working. Um, I think there's a little bit of noise in the throughout the bird, or it's overly sharpened. I'm not sure which it is, but if the photographer should look at that, I think you might find a way to help it. The bright background is very bright, obviously, but along with the monotonish colors of the branches and such, that works well with separating it from the bird. And the bird, the way you've got it cropped is perfect. The amount of space off the top of the head in the back is less space than from the chest call to the left. So that's right on. 7.
Okay, we have 34 for round 2. Classic. Vienna horse install.
9.
Autumn cornfields.
7.
Technicolor couple.
8.
The firehouse.
8.
Know-it-all.
7.
Misery.
8.
The puddle jumper.
7.
Step cautiously.
7.
Outside inside.
8.
Through rose-colored glasses.
9.
Soaring gull.
7.
What?
Say hello, Peppy.
7.
Canal.
9.
A time better forgotten.
9.
Watching.
7.
Egret in the tall reeds.
7.
Decisions.
7.
Dream Street.
7.
Stuff.
8.
Street chalk artist.
7.
Contemplating.
9.
Sundance.
7.
Pantheon sunlit window.
9.
Cowboy and his horse.
8.
Parking spot.
7,
Mystical trailings.
7,
Fair maiden.
9,
Blacklit petunia.
8,
Magic castle.
7,
Festival wheel.
8,
Inspiration.
7,
Nice to meet you.
7,
One size too small.
8,
Northern cardinal.
8.
Okay, we have 7 here, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick first, second, third, and the rest will become honorable mentions.
All right, I have it.
Okay,
The second image to the left is third place.
this one?
Yes.
Okay,
The one to the left, the first one, the horse, is number 2, or second place.
yeah.
And first place is the far right girl with the hat.
Stonebridge Photography Club, Open Class AA. Honorable mention, Canal, Harvey Birnbaum. Harvey, beautiful. A Time Better Forgotten, Dan. Very nice, Dan. Contemplating, Diana. Very nice. Pantheon Sunlit Window, Rich. Third place. Through Rose-Colored Glasses, Bobby. You got it. Second place, Vienna Horse Install, RVB again, second place. Very nice. And first place, Fair Maiden, Bobby. Fantastic. Okay, what I'm going to do now